how you doing? Hey, in a previous video, I mentioned that I'm planning on changing my lineup, especially my 70cc class saw. I'm planning on changing it to a Homelite 410. So the reason is because, I think I'd be happier running a Homelite. And guess what? She came in the mail today, and I'm kind of checking the saw out. So let me kind of show you this saw, and I'm going to kind of go over it a little bit and see what the design is. This design is very different than anything I've seen from Homelite before. So, I do want to try to turn this saw up quite a bit. So let's go over this and see what we notice, and the design of this saw and some modifications we might be able to make to it. Alrighty. So there it is, Homelite 410. Very cool design of a saw. And if you haven't already noticed, that's where the carburetor goes. Very interesting. The air filter sits here, and I can tell you that air filter was not sealed, and this thing got ran with an air filter that wasn't sealed. But I don't really need to worry about fixing this area too much because I don't even plan on using it. I can already see that. But very cool design. Look at where that carb goes. This is the carb itself. It's a Walbro. But she sat in there like that. And me looking at this, and I'm like, I could easily kind of come off of this with a little bit, like take a piece of pipe and just kind of elbow it a little bit and then flare it out to accept a 44 millimeter, velocity stack setup. I would just have to custom make the velocity stack, What do you think? It'd be kind of cool how the pod filter would be sitting like right here in this space. I kind of want to do this as a little bit hotter of a saw, so, I think that would work. And I'd have a nice clean shot straight into the engine. Now, this is a reed engine, and I'm going to show you this setup. So you can see the hole here where the reeds are. This is the intake, and those reeds are full of gunk. All sorts of sawdust debris up in there. So we might have some damage internally to take care of, but so far I am liking what I'm seeing. I do kind of like this design, and I'm very intrigued to see what we can get out of it. I was looking at the specs on this, and the specs say it's 9,500 RPM from the factory in the wood. Cutting RPM is 9,500 from the factory. So, I'm looking to get about 3,000 or 4,000 RPM additional on top of that, and then run it in my 70cc class. Now, I can tell you there's issues all over this saw. The starter doesn't work. We got all sorts of issues. So I'm not going to try to fix it and run it before and then run it after, run it stock form and then run it after stock. I'm going to have this saw completely tore down just to fix it. So I'm going to go ahead, tear it down, fix it, and port it and everything at the same time, just using my methods. But I'm going to tear into this a little bit more, so let me show you some more stuff that we might stumble on here. But that's what the intake looks like. We got to lean on one side. So there you go. That might be a better view. Now, one of the things I'm noticing here is this is the reed block. Bigger reeds. And that design should be pretty nice for more performance. I actually think I could replace those with carbon fiber. Cut out a set of carbon fiber and replace those. Probably have to be a little on the thinner side, but I think I could pull that off. Now it does use a rubber intake boot to go between this and the reed block, which I don't know if I'd actually be using it after it's reassembled, because this changes the angle of the carburetor. As you can see, the way it mounts up and the way the carburetor is. And I'm thinking maybe I should custom make one that just bolts right onto here and come straight out, because then my carb, the angles, it would basically be in a perfectly straight line straight out here. And that might be the route I take. I might actually look at eliminating this and just trying to come up with my own system. So let me tear into this a little more. I can tell you that I can see in there. The bearings are big enough that I can definitely push the compression a little bit. So, you know, she does feed directly into the crankcase. So that's a plus. It's always a plus whenever your reeds feed directly to the crankcase. But I can see a larger bearing there, so we should be good there as far as, you know, the bearing life goes. I should be able to find something that works in there and, you know, I can get some performance out of. But I'm going to take the side cover off and I want to pull the muffler off and take another look at that stuff. I'm worried because of how much debris has been getting sucked through here. I'm worried about the condition of the cylinder and piston. So that's where I'm headed there. And I got to pull the starter cover off so I can rotate it and see how she feels. All right, so, you know, once I got started, I just kept going. Basically, I got the starter off and I noticed she rotates, but she's pretty rough. So we definitely got a bearing issue in there. Really rough, I'll tell you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to definitely have to split the case here. But, you know, replacing bearings is one thing. But I want to show you the design of this. I am actually extremely excited right now. Let me show you why. All right, so we got a flat top piston. We got thin rings. But look at all that space on the top of that piston. You see that little mark right there? You see it? So I think that's how much space I have from that mark to the bottom. I didn't check it through the exhaust port. What I did is I just used my calipers and did a depth check to the exhaust port, and I think, yeah, it's about in that area. You know, we'll double check it and stuff as we go, but it is somewhere in that region. I think we can get enough squish taken out of this, you know, get her right down there to 20 thousandths. Now, if you look up in here, let me see if I can zoom you in. The cylinder's good. So no scoring or anything, but where's my flashlight? If you look down there in the bottom, you see that dark ring? See it? I think that's about how much squish this saw was running from the factory, which is a lot. Easily 60 thousandths to 80 thousandths. I couldn't rotate the rotating assembly to check the squish number, but as you can see, I bet you we're easily 60 to 80 thousandths in the squish number from the factory. So now if you take a look at it, there's our transfer port design. Over there's our exhaust port. Spark plug faces towards the rear, but if you know me, there's room back there to do something. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. Even the connecting rod, it's a pressed connecting rod. There's no bolts on it like the other Homelites. So there's no bolts there to fail or whatever, you know what I mean? Now the connecting rod bearing feels great, but for now, this is where we're at. Now we got a flat top piston, thin rings, and you can see back here we got a whole lot of carbon on the back side, and the bottom ring appears to be stuck. So I'm thinking we were having some ring sticking issues. The bottom of the skirt back here is pretty worn, so I'm going to see about finding a new piston altogether, I think. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. Now, if you're wondering about using a different kind of piston, this is a 49 millimeter bore. So we would have to keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm pretty happy now. All right, so my furnace kicked on and I paused the video. But I got an update for you because while the furnace was running, I decided to put a bunch of oil down the crankcase and see what happens. And guess what? She's rotating nice and smooth now. I think our issue was just dry bearings, you know, because they are kind of pressed in there. And I think that little bit of tension without any lube was enough to make them not want to rotate. But she's rotating pretty smooth now. And the longer I do it, the smoother it gets. So I think I'm just going to leave those bearings alone. I'm not going to split the cases and just build it from this. Now, if I have a bearing failure down the road, I'll tear it apart, you know. That's part of the life. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and start with my build from this point. I'll work at getting her cleaned up, get a new piston and rings in, and work at getting her built. So yeah, I am really happy right now with what I'm finding, and you know what my game plan is starting to shape up like. I mean, I got a pretty good squish band in there. She's going to need cleaned up a bit, but that squish band's better than a lot of the vintage saws that I typically see. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm really excited about this one. So yeah, there you go. The first official video of the 70cc saw that we're going to build for our 70cc class whenever we run against all those modern saws. You know, are we going to get this thing to perform the same? Who knows? Will we get it to perform better? Doubtful. But, you know, we're going to have a lot of fun in the process. I got all sorts of plans worked out in my head, some stuff that I've never done on the channel before, and you know, it should all create more power. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll work at getting some parts located. I'm going to see about getting some seals and piston. I'm probably going to locate a carburetor. I mean, I got all sorts of stuff I'm going to get located for this saw. So, you know, she's going to be an interesting process. But anyway, hey, we'll catch you on the next one. Later.